Andriy stood before the door of his own house, hesitating to turn the key in the lock. The week had flown by like a single day, but now, reckoning was inevitable. He knew Alla had been married to him for 20 years. In all that time, she'd never once forgiven even a minor lie. And here he was, vanished for an entire week. Phone switched off, no explanation left behind. His hands trembled slightly. His mouth was dry. The way it got before high-stakes negotiations. Only this time, the stakes weren't a business deal. They were his entire life. Marina had insisted he finally tell his wife the truth. Enough hiding, she'd said last night. Lying beside him in bed. You said yourself the love is gone. So why keep dragging it out? Quote. But Andriy knew Alla better. She wouldn't fade quietly into the background. 5 years ago, when he'd stayed out at a corporate event until 3 a.m. without warning. She'd thrown a scandal loud enough to wake half the building. She'd accused him of disrespect. Demanded the phone numbers of everyone present for verification. Then, for 2 weeks, she'd cooked only for herself, leaving him notes. Reheat in the microwave. 6 months ago, when he'd forgotten to mention a 2-day business trip to a nearby city, she'd stopped speaking to him for a week, answering only in monosyllables, and only when it concerned the children. And a year ago, when he'd casually remarked that a pretty secretary reminded him of a famous actress, Alla had spent an entire month making sarcastic inquiries about his artistic preferences and aesthetic tastes. That was precisely why he'd decided to say nothing for now. He needed time to prepare, to plan every move. The key turned with a familiar click. Andriy stepped into the hallway, bracing himself for the sound of footsteps thundering down the stairs. For shouting. Instead, he was met with silence, and the comforting aroma of something delicious wafting from the kitchen. Back already, came a calm voice. He froze, scarcely believing his ears. There was no anger in Alla's tone, no resentment, only mild surprise, as if he'd merely worked late a couple of hours, not disappeared for a week without a word. Yes, it's me, he replied, shrugging off his jacket with trembling hands. Perfect. I was just about to have dinner. Will you join me? Quote. Andriy walked slowly into the kitchen, utterly bewildered. Alla stood at the stove in a grey sweater and faded jeans, stirring something in a large skillet. Her chestnut hair was pulled into a messy ponytail. A gentle smile played on her lips. It was as if nothing had happened, as if he'd simply returned from an ordinary workday. You're not angry? He asked cautiously, sitting on a stool at the kitchen island. Alla turned. Her face was completely composed. No trace of irritation or suspicion. Just the soft, domestic smile of a wife happy to see her husband. Andriy didn't notice how, for a split second, the muscles in her jaw tightened, or how she subtly clenched and unclenched her left hand behind her back. Angry. About what? She tilted her head, feigning confusion. You're a grown man. You can go wherever you like. I thought you'd be worried. You didn't answer your phone. Worried? Alla let out a melodious laugh, utterly devoid of sarcasm. Why? You're not a child. She studied him thoughtfully, though even a child would have let someone know he was running late. Her words stung, but her tone was so gentle that Andriy chose to ignore the jab. The main thing was, no scene. That meant there was still a chance to resolve this quietly. What are you cooking? He asked, peering into the skillet and inhaling the savory scents. Chicken with vegetables and herbs. Your favorite. Alla smiled again. Warmly. Sincerely. Remember how your mother taught me to make this dish in the early years of our marriage? Quote. Andriy nodded. Of course he remembered. Back then, Alla had been a novice in the kitchen, and his late mother had spent hours patiently explaining the secrets of family recipes. Go wash up. I'll set the table. And change into something comfortable. You look exhausted. Upstairs, Andriy still couldn't believe what was happening. In 20 years of marriage, Alla had never reacted this calmly to his missteps. Had she really changed? Become wiser? Learned to forgive? He changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt. Splashed cold water on his face. In the mirror, he saw the tired face of a 50-year-old man. The week with Marina had passed like a dream. They'd barely left her apartment. Ordering takeout. Making love. Dreaming of a shared future. Marina fantasized about a joint vacation. About living together after his divorce. But now, back in his own home, Andriy suddenly realized he wasn't ready for such drastic change. This, his routine, his stability, his predictability, was his real life. When he came downstairs, the table was set as if for a celebration. White linen tablecloth, elegant plates with gold trim, the wedding china, usually reserved for guests. Even candles glowed in crystal holders. Wow, what's the occasion? Andriy asked, settling into his usual seat at the head of the table. No occasion, Alla replied, sitting across from him and pouring red wine into 2 glasses. I just wanted to enjoy a beautiful dinner with my husband. It's not every day we get to spend an evening alone. The kids already ate and went off to their own things. And where are they? Quote. Anna's at a friend's, working on a history project. Maxim's in his room, preparing for tomorrow's chess tournament. Alla took a sip of wine and looked at him intently. So, how are things? Where were you all week? Quote. Here it was. Andriy braced himself to lie, carefully selecting his words. Work. A high-priority project for a major client. I practically lived at the office. 18-hour days. I see, Alla said slowly, slicing a piece of chicken. Must have been tough. Good thing you had help. That girl, what's her name? Marina. Was she working on the project too? Quote. Andriy nearly choked on his wine, coughing violently. Alla handed him a napkin with concern. Where did you? I never mentioned her to you. You did? Alla smiled that same soft smile. About 2 months ago, you said a new employee had joined your team. Very capable. You called her ambitious. Andriy didn't recall that conversation, but he nodded. Maybe I did say something, but it wasn't important. She leaned back in her chair, but her eyes never left him. I'm just thinking out loud, analyzing the situation. You don't mind, do you? Quote. At that moment, Anna appeared in the doorway. Their 18-year-old daughter usually avoided family dinners, preferring to eat alone in her room. But now she stood there, studying her parents with sharp, gray eyes. Dad, you're back, she said in a flat tone, betraying neither joy nor surprise. Yes, sweetie, missed me? Quote. Not really. Anna shrugged. Exactly like her mother. Mom said you were on an important business trip. Alla caught her daughter's gaze and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Clearly, they'd already talked. Everything okay? Anna asked, glancing between her parents. It all feels strange. What feels strange? Darling. Alla asked gently. I don't know. The table's too fancy. And you're too calm. Anna shifted her weight. Maxim wants to know. Will you be at his chess tournament tomorrow? Quote, Andrew was flustered. What tournament? When did he tell me? Quote, at 2 pages M, he mentioned it last Saturday, when you were still home. Anna watched his reaction closely. Of course I'll be there, Andrew said quickly, though he barely remembered the conversation. I'll definitely come support our champion. Great. Alla clapped her hands. Family day out. I'll go too. Maybe after the tournament. We'll go to the park or catch a movie. Quote, Anna lingered a moment longer, as if about to say something, then nodded and left. Andrew watched her go. A few minutes later, muffled voices drifted from the hallway. You hear that? Anna whispered. They're acting totally unlike themselves. I know, Maxim replied in a low voice. Mom's way too calm. Remember how she freaked out when Dad missed my concert last year? And now he vanishes for a week. And she acts like nothing happened. Quote, and Dad? He seems scared of something. Did you see how he flinched whenever Mom looked at him? Quote, you think they had a serious fight? Quote, I don't know, but something's definitely going on. And I don't like this whole perfect family act. Should we eavesdrop? Quote, not worth it. Better to just observe tomorrow at the tournament. Everything'll become clear then. Their voices faded. Footsteps retreated upstairs to their rooms. Smart kids, Alla remarked without looking up from her plate. They can smell fakeness a mile away. What fakeness? Andrew asked warily. None. Alla smiled. Just talking. You told them I was on a business trip? Quote, what else was I supposed to say? Alla blinked innocently. That my husband disappeared without a trace and ignored all my calls. Why upset the children with unnecessary details? Quote, thank you. Andrew sighed with relief. You did the right thing. Of course I did. Alla's smile remained gentle. But something in her tone made him uneasy. The words were proper, yet the inflection carried a faint, unmistakable irony. Alla stood and began clearing the table. Her movements were fluid, measured, the controlled grace of someone exerting immense self-discipline. Andrew noticed how she held each plate a fraction longer than usual, as if steadying a slight tremor in her fingers. How she paused briefly to take a breath before reaching for the next item. Go rest, you must be exhausted after such intensive work. Andrew rose but lingered in the kitchen doorway. Alla, are you really not angry? You're acting unusually calm. She turned. The same soft smile played on her lips. But for a fleeting instant, something cold and calculating flickered in her eyes. The focused gaze of a professional assessing a fascinating case. Of course not, darling. I understand. Work is work, especially when it's all-consuming. She stepped closer and kissed him lightly on the cheek. Her lips were warm, but the gesture felt perfunctory. Good night. Andrew went upstairs. A vague dread coiling in his chest. Something was off about his wife's behavior. Alla had never forgiven so easily. Never been this detached. As if she were watching him from a distance, studying his reactions. Meanwhile, Alla remained alone in the kitchen. She stood perfectly still, slowly counting to 30 while practicing an old university-taught breathing exercise for self-control. Only when she heard the creak of the stairs and the quiet click of the bedroom door did she allow herself to relax. But there was no rage on her face, only the icy focus of a surgeon before a complex operation. She pulled a small leather notebook from the kitchen drawer and wrote in neat script. Day 1. Reaction to return. Confusion. Attempts to justify. Didn't expect calm. Will grow complacent. Key. Don't overplay. She reread the note, tucked the notebook away, and retrieved a thick envelope from her handbag. The private investigator had earned his fee. Photos. Andri and Marina at a restaurant. At the theater. In her parking lot. Outside a hotel beyond the city limits. The latest shots were from that very morning. Andri kissing Marina goodbye at her doorstep. Promising to return soon. Vowing to divorce his wife after the New Year holidays. Alla methodically reviewed each photo, memorizing every detail. Then, just as methodically, she tore them into tiny pieces and fed them into the sink grinder. No traces, no evidence. She no longer needed physical proof. Everything essential was already etched into her memory. She moved to the window and gazed at her reflection in the dark glass. A 47-year-old woman. 20 years given to her family. 20 years building a perfect home. Raising children. Supporting her husband's career. Sacrificing her own ambitions for his success. 20 years can't just end like this, she whispered to her reflection. A story like ours deserves a worthy finale. Beautiful. Just. The plan had been ready for a month. Tomorrow. She would begin its execution. And Andri would learn what it truly meant to betray a woman who knew not only how to love and forgive, but also how to take revenge. Elegantly. Patiently. Relentlessly. Her vengeance would be exquisite. Meticulously crafted. And utterly devastating. End of part 1. Part 2. The Reckoning. Alla woke at 6:30 a.m. As usual. 20 years of marriage had established a precise routine. Wake up. Shower. Make breakfast for the family. See her husband off to work. But today was different. Today, the operation began. Andri slept beside her. Turned toward the wall. In sleep. He looked younger. Almost like the man she'd married all those years ago. Alla studied his profile for a few seconds. Then quietly rose and went to the bathroom. As she looked in the mirror, she mentally reviewed her plan. Today is Saturday. Maxim's tournament. The perfect day to begin. Andri will be relaxed. Convinced the danger has passed. Time for the next move. Mom, you're up? Anna's sleepy voice came from behind the door. Yes, sweetheart. I'm making breakfast. Can I have pancakes? I'm in the mood for something festive. Alla smiled. Anna always sensed the atmosphere in the house. Of course. I'll make them right now. In the kitchen. Alla turned on the coffee maker and gathered ingredients for pancakes. The familiar motions were calming, helping her focus. She was whisking batter when Maxim came downstairs. Lean, 16, tousled hair, his father's intelligent eyes. Good morning, champion. Ready for the tournament? Quote, I guess. Maxim yawned and sat at the table. Mom, will Dad really come? Quote, of course he will. He promised? He promises a lot. Maxim shrugged. Remember when he said he'd come to my concert and the parent-teacher meeting in September? Quote, Alla froze for a second. Spatula in hand. Maxim was right. Andri regularly let the kids down. Blaming work. And she'd always covered for him. Inventing excuses. Not this time, she said softly. How can you be so sure? Quote, Alla flipped a pancake and smiled at her son. I just know. At 8:30, Andri came down, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. Hair messy, slightly embarrassed. He still couldn't believe last night had gone so smoothly. Good morning, dear. Alla kissed his cheek as always. Coffee. Quote, yes, please. Andri sat at the table where the kids were already eating. Max. Tournaments at 2 p.m. Quote. Maxim didn't look up from his plate. I'll be there, Andriy said, picking up his coffee. What are your plans for the weekend? Quote. I'm going to a friend's dacha, Anna said. Internet's terrible, so you won't see me till Monday. And I'm visiting Grandpa after the tournament, Maxim added. He needs help with his computer. Alla listened carefully. So after lunch, it'll just be Andriy and me. Perfect. Anna exclaimed. That means Dad and I get a romantic evening. Andriy choked on his coffee. What do you mean? Quote. It's simple, Alla said, sitting beside him. We haven't spent time alone in ages. Maybe we'll go to the theater. Or just stay in and talk. Quote. Talk about what? Andriy asked warily. About life. Our plans. What we want from the future. Alla smiled lightly. You don't mind? Do you? Quote. Of course not. Quote. The kids exchanged glances. Anna gave an almost imperceptible shake of her head at her father. Maxim frowned. Dad, Maxim asked suddenly. What happened with your phone? I tried calling Wednesday when I was sick. Mom said you were in an important meeting. But you always answer me. Andriy tensed. My phone died. Forgot the charger at home. It died for a whole week. Maxim raised an eyebrow. Not the whole week. Just. Work was overwhelming. No time. I see, Maxim nodded. But doubt clouded his eyes. Alla watched the exchange closely, mentally noting her husband's reactions. Classic cognitive dissonance. She thought. Conflict between the urge to lie and fear of exposure. Defense mechanisms activated, but poorly managed under stress. He wasn't prepared for detailed questioning. After breakfast, the kids left for their plans. Andriy tried to retreat to his study, but Alla gently intercepted him at the stairs. Andriy, I need to run to the mall for dinner supplies. Will you come with me? Quote. I wanted to work. Quote. On a Saturday. Alla tilted her head. After such a hard week, you need to rest. Well, but. Quote. Besides, she took his arm. I'd like your advice on a gift for your mother. Her birthday's coming up. He couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. In the car, Alla chatted casually about weekly plans, but watched him closely. Every time his phone rang, Andriy flinched. His replies were brief, tense. Who was that? She asked after the third call. A colleague? On a Saturday. Your team is impressively dedicated. Alla glanced at him. That Marina again? Quote. No, not Marina, he replied too quickly. Another colleague. Lie. She noted mentally. Overreaction to a neutral question. The name, Marina, triggers stress. At the mall. She led him to the men's department. You need a new shirt for work. She held up a navy blue one. This would be perfect for important meetings. As she pressed it to his chest, she caught a faint, unfamiliar scent. Light, floral, distinctly feminine. Not her perfume. Interesting, Alla said calmly, setting the shirt aside. New cologne. Quote. What cologne? Quote. You smell different. Floral. Alla smiled innocently. Maybe they installed an air freshener at the office. Quote. Yeah, probably. Quote. Another clue. She filed away. They bought what they needed and returned home. The kids were getting ready for the tournament. Anna in a black jacket and jeans, looking older than 18. Maxim nervously checking his backpack. Everyone ready? Alla asked. Then let's go. The tournament was held at the city's arts school. A large hall filled with chess tables. Parents lining the walls. Alla and Andriy took seats in the second row. So many kids, Andriy remarked. And all so serious. Maxim's been preparing for 3 months, Alla said. 2 hours a day against the computer. Good for him. I didn't even know. You don't know much about your children, Alla said quietly. Not accusatory. But Andriy still flinched. I work for the family. I know. She placed a hand on his knee. I just hate that you miss so many important moments. They watched as Maxim played his first match. Focused. Deliberate. Andriy's pride was obvious. Remember when you taught him to play? Alla whispered. He was 7. You sat with him every evening. Yes, Andriy smiled. He kept trying to capture my king. Then you started working late. And the games stopped. Alla. Quote. It's all right, darling. She squeezed his hand. What matters is you're here now. Maxim's been waiting for this. Maxim won the first match and beamed at his parents. Andriy waved. And the boy's face lit up. See how happy he is. Alla whispered. This means everything to him. I understand. I hope so. Alla paused. Children grow up so fast, blink. And they're adults. And if you miss the moment. Quote. What are you getting at? Quote. Nothing specific. She studied him. Sometimes people get distracted by new interests. And forget what truly matters. Andriy paled. Alla. If you suspect something. Quote. Suspect what? She smiled innocently. I have a wonderful husband. Amazing kids. A good job. What more could I want? Quote. Just then, a notification lit up Andriy's phone. He glanced at it and blushed. Work again? Alla asked. Just spam. He quickly turned the phone face down. But Alla had already seen the sender's name. Marinka. With a heart icon beside it. Perfect. She thought. Another piece of evidence. Now I have the contact name. Message timing. And his clear reaction? That's enough. Maxim won his second match but lost the final. He received a certificate for second place and looked satisfied. Never mind, Andriy said, hugging him. You'll win next time. Thanks for coming. Dad. It meant a lot. Of course I came. I promised. After the awards ceremony. They dropped the kids off. Anna at her friend's. Maxim at his grandfather's. Alla and Andriy were alone. Want to just stay in tonight? Andriy suggested as he started the car. I'm tired. Of course. Dear. Alla leaned back. At home. We can talk properly. I'll show you something interesting. What? Quote. You'll see. Alla smiled enigmatically. I think you'll be curious to learn what I've been doing for the past 2 months. Andriy gripped the wheel tighter. Something had shifted in her tone. Subtle, but unmistakable. Alla stared out the window, mentally cataloging her findings. Foreign perfume. Marinka, contact with a heart. Nervous reactions to the name. Lies about a dead phone. The picture was clear. Now it was time for the next phase. At home. Alla went straight to the bedroom and changed into a Bordeaux house dress. The one Andriy once said made her look especially beautiful. She let down her hair. Touched up her lipstick. If a crucial conversation was coming. She wanted to look impeccable. Andriy paced the living room, glancing at his phone. 3 more messages from Marinka had arrived while they were out. He didn't read them in front of Alla, but she saw how his face tightened each time the screen lit up. Tea, she called from the stairs. Sure. Alla went to the kitchen and put the kettle on. In the quiet house, every sound echoed. Andriy coughed. flipped a magazine page. Coughed again. Classic signs of anxiety. Andri. Dear. She called from the kitchen. Remember you mentioned your new colleague? Marina. How's she doing at work? Quote. Silence. Then the creak of his chair. Fine. Why? Quote. Just curious. Alla entered with a tray. She's young. Probably ambitious. Just a regular colleague. Quote. I see. Alla set the cups down and sat across from him. You know, I was thinking, maybe we should invite her over. Get to know her better. Andri jerked so sharply he nearly spilled his tea. Why? Quote. Why not? Alla raised her eyebrows. You talk about her so much. I'm intrigued. And if she helps with important projects, it's good to maintain cordial relations with your team. I never talked about her. Didn't you? Alla tilted her head. I could have sworn you mentioned her name 3 times in the last 2 days. Maybe I did, but that's not the same as talking about her. All right. Alla sipped her tea. Naturally. You'd share work updates with your wife. Andri stared into his cup. Alla observed him with professional interest. He was entering what psychologists call choice paralysis. The state where every word risks exposure. You know, she continued thoughtfully, today at the mall, I realized how little we know about each other after all these years. What do you mean? Quote, the little things? Like you changed your cologne. And I didn't notice right away. Alla stood and walked to the window. When we married, you always answered my calls. Even stepping out of important meetings to talk to me. Work was lighter back then. Maybe. Alla turned to him. Now you have new priorities. What new priorities? Family is my priority. Quote, of course. She returned to the couch. Closer this time. Close enough that he caught the familiar scent of her perfume. The one he'd known for 20 years. Andri, I want to ask you one question. And I need an honest answer. What is it? Quote, are you cheating on me? Quote, the silence was so thick they could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Andri looked into her eyes. And saw something new. Not anger. Not hurt. Cold. Clinical curiosity. No, he rasped. Of course not, Alla repeated softly. Interesting phrasing. As if the very idea were absurd. It is absurd. Quote, then explain this. She pulled a folded slip from her dress pocket. While you were showering, I decided to wash your shirt. And found this in the pocket. She unfolded it. A restaurant receipt. For 2. Date. The day before yesterday. Time. 8 p.m. Andri went pale. It was a work dinner. A work dinner. Alla examined the slip. At Venice. A romantic spot. Wine at 500 rubles. Oysters. Dessert. She looked up. Very generous for a work dinner. We were celebrating the project's completion. We. Alla leaned forward. So you weren't alone? Quote, with colleagues. With colleagues, she echoed. But the receipt is for 2. The others paid separately. I see. Alla neatly refolded the receipt. So a work dinner with colleagues. At a romantic restaurant. Quote, yes. Fine. Alla stood. Then you won't mind if I call the restaurant to check details. Maybe we'll book a table for our anniversary. Why would you call? Quote, I'm curious about the service. What makes a work dinner cost $5,000? She picked up her phone. Don't. Andri stood abruptly. Why not? Alla looked genuinely puzzled. You said it was great there. It is. But it's expensive. No matter. An anniversary is special. She began dialing. Hello. Venice. Restaurant. Quote. Andrew watched in horror. If she started asking about the night before last. Good evening, Alla said into the phone. I'd like to inquire. Quote. She suddenly stopped and hung up. Sorry, dear. They're closed. I'll call tomorrow. Andrew exhaled in relief. Alla, maybe we shouldn't book that place for our anniversary. Why not? You said it was good. Well, it's noisy. Not ideal for a romantic dinner. But fine for a work dinner? Quote. Andrew realized he'd trapped himself. Alla. Quote. He trailed off, unsure what to say. What is it? Darling. Quote. Nothing. Just tired. Of course you are. Alla placed a hand on his shoulder. After such a busy week, and such a generous work dinner. Her touch was gentle. But Andrew felt an undercurrent of threat. You know what? Alla said, moving toward the window. Let's postpone serious talk. You really do look exhausted. Good idea. But tomorrow, we'll discuss everything. She turned to him. We'll have all day. Kids won't be back until Sunday night. Discuss what? Quote. Everything. Alla smiled enigmatically. Our life, our relationship, our future plans, and of course, your work. I'm very interested in your projects. Andrew nodded, but inside, he felt a knot of dread. Tomorrow, Alla would interrogate him. And he wasn't ready. Not at all. Go rest, she said. I'll tidy up downstairs. Upstairs. Sleep eluded him. He lay in bed, wondering what to do. Alla clearly suspected something. The receipt. Questions about Marina. Those strange hints. Downstairs. Alla washed dishes calmly. Planning the next day. The receipt was just the beginning. She had far more cards to play. Tomorrow, she'd show her husband what a real game looked like. And he'd realize he was playing against a professional. Part 3. The Reckoning. Monday morning began with the shrill ring of the alarm at 7. Alla woke with a clear mind and a precise plan. Today marked the end of a 20-year marriage. But it would end with dignity, control, and justice. Andrew had slept fitfully, tossing and turning all night. He rose with dark circles under his eyes and the hollow expression of a man who knew judgment awaited him. Good morning, dear, Alla said, kissing his cheek as she always did. Coffee. Quote. Yes, thank you. He sat on the edge of the bed. Alla, there's something I need to tell you. I know. She calmly brushed her hair in front of the mirror. But not now. Let's take the kids to school first. They shouldn't hear this. They're already sensing the tension. Breakfast passed in strained silence. Anna and Maxim exchanged glances but asked no questions. They'd learned to wait. Mom, are you going to work today? Anna asked as she zipped her backpack. No. Sweetheart. I took the day off. Alla smiled. Your father and I have some important adult business to attend to. Adult business? Maxim frowned. Yes, son. Nothing for you to worry about. She hugged them both. See you this evening. Once the front door clicked shut behind the children, the house fell into a heavy quiet. Andrew paced the kitchen while Alla washed the last of the dishes with unhurried precision. Alla, he finally said, voice low, let's go to the living room. It'll be easier to talk there. In the living room. Alla settled into her favorite armchair. Andrew sat stiffly on the sofa opposite. Two players at opposite ends of a battlefield. All right, she said. Tone brisk and professional. You have something to tell me? Quote. He swallowed. I've been seeing Marina. Seeing her? Alla tilted her head. For how long? Quote, 4 months. I see. Alla reached into her handbag and pulled out a small notebook, jotting something down. And what does seeing her mean? Exactly. Quote, Alla, do we really need details? Quote, yes, she said evenly, meeting his eyes over the notebook. I need the full picture. Are you sleeping with her? Quote, yes. Do you tell her you love her? Quote, yes. Do you promise to divorce me? Quote, I do. He clenched his fists. After the new year. After the new year. Alla wrote it down. And why wait? What's stopping you now? Quote, the kids. Your reaction. Finances. Quote, understood. She closed the notebook. So, 4 months of lies. A week spent at her apartment. Plans for divorce. Anything else? Quote, he shook his head mutely. Good. Alla rose and walked to the window. Now it's my turn. What do you mean? Quote, I've known about your affair for 2 months. She turned back to him. Ever since you came home smelling like her perfume. Andri paled. 2 months. And you said nothing? Quote, I said nothing, she confirmed. Because I was gathering evidence. She opened the drawer of the coffee table and pulled out a thick manila folder. Here's what I found. She spread the contents across the table. Photographs. Dozens of them. Andri and Marina at a restaurant. At the theater. Outside her building. Entering a hotel beyond the city. Where did you get these? Quote, a private investigator. Very thorough. Alla flipped through the pages. And here, your financial records. Dinners. Gifts. Hotel stays. In 4 months, you spent nearly 300,000 of our family savings on her. Alla, I can explain. Quote, no need. She shut the folder. I understand perfectly. Now let's discuss consequences. Consequences. Quote, yes. Divorce. Alla's voice remained calm. Almost clinical. You want one, don't you? I've prepared the terms. She handed him a legal document. Andri scanned it. His face drained of color with every line. But this. You get the house. The dacha. The car. Half my business shares. Alimony for the kids until adulthood. This is practically everything. Quote, not everything. Alla smoothed her skirt. You keep your salary. Part of your savings. And the studio apartment you rented for your trysts with Marina. The investigator found that too. It costs 40,000 a month. Quite luxurious for a bachelor. This is robbery. Quote, no, she said firmly. It's justice. For 20 years, I built this home. I raised our children. I supported your career while setting aside my own dreams, and in return, you betrayed me. With your subordinate. No less. It's not just an affair. He burst out. I love her. Quote, love her? Alla gave a dry laugh. Then by all means. Divorce me. But understand this. Marina has no idea what your life will actually look like after the split. Does she think she's marrying a wealthy man? Quote, Andri fell silent. Didn't think so. Alla leaned forward. Here are your options. Option 1. Sign these papers. We divorce cleanly. The children stay with me. But you can see them any time. Option 2. Refuse. I file for divorce in court. Citing infidelity and emotional harm. With these photos. And witness statements from the restaurant staff. The hotel clerk. Even your colleagues who noticed your special report with Marina. The judge will side with me. You'll get far less. And your reputation will be ruined. Andri stared at her. Realization dawning. You've planned this for 2 months. Of course. Alla stood. It's what I do. I prepare. He picked up the pen. His hand shook, but his signature was legible. What now? He whispered. Now you pack your things and leave. Alla gathered the documents. The kids will hear the truth from me. Without drama. Just that we've decided to live apart. They'll hate me. No, she said gently. They're old enough to understand that people grow apart. But they won't forgive lies. And neither will I. He lingered for a moment at the foot of the stairs. Alla. I'm sorry. I'm not angry. Andrei, she said softly. Just disappointed. An hour later, he left with 2 suitcases. Alla remained in her armchair, book in hand, as if nothing had changed. But when the sound of his car faded into the distance, she exhaled deeply, like someone stepping out of a heavy coat. That evening, she told Anna and Maxim. Anna cried quietly. Maxim frowned but nodded. To her surprise, they took the news with quiet maturity. Mom, Anna asked, will you be happy? Quote, yes. Sweetheart, Alla said, pulling her close. Absolutely. Meanwhile, in his rented studio, Andrei stared at his phone. Marina had texted. When will I see you? Miss you. He typed a reply, then deleted it. How could he explain that the future they dreamed of, travel, cohabitation, a fresh start, was built on sand? That the man she loved was now a broke, divorced father with half a life? Alla had been right. Her revenge wasn't loud or cruel. It was elegant. She'd given him exactly what he asked for, then let him face the consequences alone. 20 years of marriage ended not with a scream, but with a whisper. Dignified, controlled, and utterly final. 6 months had passed since the divorce. Alla stood at the window of her office in the city's psychological wellness center, watching autumn rain trace slow paths down the glass. Life had settled into a rhythm far more peaceful, and far more honest, than she'd ever imagined possible. Her private practice was thriving. Word had spread about her discretion, her insight, and her uncanny ability to help women navigate the wreckage of betrayal without losing their dignity. In the past half year, 7 clients had walked through her door with stories eerily similar to her own. Hushed suspicions, late-night absences, unfamiliar perfumes on a husband's collar. To each, she offered not just empathy, but strategy, truth, agency. Anna had enrolled in the psychology faculty at university, following in her mother's footsteps. I want to help people see clearly, she'd said during one of their long Sunday walks. Like you helped us. Maxim had won the regional chess championship and was now preparing for the national tournament. He still saw his father. Andrei made sure of that. But their conversations were polite, distant. The spark of hero worship had dimmed, replaced by cautious respect. As for Andrei, he lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. Still employed at the same firm but noticeably quieter, less assured. His romance with Marina had lasted exactly 1 month after the divorce. The moment she grasped the reality of his finances. No house, no second car, no luxury weekends. Her affection evaporated. The last Alla had seen of her was at the mall, arm in arm with an older man in an impeccably tailored suit. Her laughter bright and practiced. Alla felt no bitterness, only relief. The woman who had once folded herself into silence for the sake of harmony was gone. In her place stood someone who understood that love should never require self-erasure. At 7 p.m. that evening, Alla returned home to the comforting hum of domestic life. Anna was at the stove, stirring a pot of soup. Maxime sat at the kitchen table, brow furrowed over a math textbook. "Mom, how was work?" he asked without looking up. "Good," Alla said, hanging her coat. "I helped a woman untangle a very complicated situation." "You always help people," Anna remarked, placing bowls on the table. "It's kind of your superpower." Alla smiled. "Maybe, but today, I'm just glad to be home." There was no pretense here. No hidden messages in wine glasses. No rehearsed smiles over candlelit dinners. Just the quiet certainty of shared space, mutual trust, and the smell of garlic and thyme rising from the pot. Later, as she washed the dishes, her phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a single name. "Andre." She answered calmly. "Alla, it's me. Can we talk?" Quote, "Of course. Are the kids all right?" Quote, "They're fine. It's me." A pause. "I'd like to see you. To apologize. And to ask, could we possibly try again?" Quote, Alla didn't sigh. Didn't laugh. She simply leaned against the counter and looked out at the rain. "Andre," she said gently, "we went over this 6 months ago. But I've changed. I see now what I lost, please. Give me a chance to make it right." She closed her eyes for just a moment. "Tell me, do you want to fix your mistakes? Or just undo their consequences?" Quote, "I don't understand the difference. That's why it wouldn't work." Her voice was kind, but firm. "You miss the comfort of what we had, not the truth of who I am. And I won't go back to being a ghost in my own life." He was silent for a long time. Then, quietly, I miss you. I wish you happiness." "Andre," Alla said, "but you'll have to build it somewhere else. Not in our past." She ended the call and placed the phone in the drawer of the kitchen cabinet, where it would stay, untouched, until the next child-related coordination required it. Upstairs, the house was quiet except for the soft turning of textbook pages. Alla poured herself a cup of tea and sat at the table with her children. No secrets, no fear, no performance. For the first time in years, she felt entirely herself. The rain continued outside, steady and cleansing. But inside, the air was warm, clear, and full of peace. And Alla knew, with quiet certainty, that her new life wasn't just better than the old one. It was finally hers.